O universo da relojoaria é realmente fascinante. E quanto mais me aprofundo, mais fico encantado. A Relojoaria JJ teve a honra de ser convidada para participar de um evento da Bulova que celebra 150 anos da marca. Uma marca com um presente impressionante e um futuro cheio de possibilidades. E neste vídeo de hoje você irá conhecer profundamente a história de uma marca norte-americana que realmente se destacou no mercado de relógios. Espero que vocês curtam o tanto que eu curti. Um forte abraço e vamos sempre em frente, meus amigos.
Joseph Bulova, our founder. The company's been uninterrupted for 150 years, and we really stand on the shoulders of Joseph.
The more I learn about Bulova and the history, it's not just having a great product and a great brand, it's also tapping into the souls of the zeitgeist and the consciousness of the world, and continuing to do that, continuing to innovate and always trying to make better.
Joseph Bulova was born in 1851 in Bohemia, what is today known as the Czech Republic. As a very young man, he had apprenticed as a jeweler. He was someone who was really escaping, for his own personal reasons and coming to the country as the great, American dream. When Joseph Bulova leaves, he was only 19 years old, and he made the trip, as far as we know, by himself. It was 1870. It's an amazing voyage by itself, and then you think about it, he's coming here, new land, probably doesn't speak the language real well.
Joseph comes here, works for Tiffany's in their Diamond Jubilee store. 5 years later, he owns his own watch business in Manhattan. Like, that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen today. It doesn't happen ever. He just was fearless.
Bulova is so linked to history and innovation. So it's like watches start becoming wristwatches. The company had to adapt. So Bulova started making wristwatches and it started taking off.
When you think about all the things that can go wrong over 150 years, the Depression being one big one, during the 30s, they actually gained market share during that period. It's really a testament to Artie Bulova, the son of Joseph. Growing up right from the beginning, Artie was a salesman at 16, then as a VP or manager, and then the CEO of the company up until the time that he passed away. And he did incredible work in all those years.
Their success in the early years was really the fact that they were living amongst the folks that they really understood. It was all about quality, it was all about American made, and I just feel like they've always really been very connected. And also at the same time, really cutting edge.
I consider myself more of a horological archaeologist than a collector. As I built my Bulova collection, it topped out at over 5,000 pieces. So it got crazy. Yeah, it got crazy. Things got off the rails. I wanted to find kind of the history of the brand. And what I found was there wasn't a lot there. A lot of it was lost. Joseph, he came here, and it was a lot about hard work, but he was born with a natural skill. His engineering mind was unbelievable. This watch from the 1930s, the whole back is loosely hinged. That's the watch as it's supposed to function. Now, if you look inside, there's a pin in there. That pin in there is actually on a bit of a screw. So whenever this closes on your wrist, you can hear it click. And that click, it's actually on a spring, and it, 0.5 millimeter at a time, winds your mainspring. It's really next level stuff. That's what put Bulova in a whole different set.
Joseph Bulova, it's an American dream, and that's what Bulova represents to me, a journey to achieve independence. Name a more relatable story, right? Name a story that's going to encourage you to be better every day. The Bulova story, I think, at its core is the most important story, not just as a brand, but as a message. Who doesn't strive toward that?
My connection with Joseph Bulova is striving for excellence, right? Against all odds, but just sheer passion. It's not only are you going to tell me I can't do it, and I'm going to show you that it's possible, but I'm gonna be the best at it. I'm in the precision business. I'm in the timing business. Music is about pauses. Music is about editing. It's about knowing when to stop. And I took that into consideration when in designing the watch. The elements that I put into the watch were deeply personal. You know, because every watch is a part of your life on a daily basis, minute-to-minute basis. It has everything to do with beauty, quality, rhythm. But then there's the precision part that just fascinates me. It's beyond the American dream. Bulova ticks every box, pun intended. Tick, tick, tick. Bulova ticks every box.
When I think of Bulova, I think about it being an American brand originally, but I just think about it being New York. I mean, to me, it's synonymous with New York City.
Bulova is such a central piece of New York history. They've been true to the New York vision, which is being in your face and kind of changing the game.
New York is one of the most multicultural destinations in the entire world. Bulova has embraced that at every step along the way. They've paid genuine attention to diversity, to equality, to the New York grit, the New York state of mind. New York is the idea of a melting pot. All of this factors into the Bulova brand.
I don't think any other brand can capture the dynamism of a city that never sleeps. It comes through in their designs, it comes through in their spirit. It's the company saying, we love New York and we'll always be a part of New York City.
In 1920, Bulova moves from Maiden Lane to Fifth Avenue and builds an observatory on top of the building to show to the world how accuracy was being handled by the Bulova Watch Company, and also made a statement. I mean, you're on Fifth Avenue now, you're not in Maiden Lane, you're on the big street.
Throughout the years, wherever there was a major hub, Bulova was there. The 1939 World's Fair, they wanted to have the exposure. Bulova clocks were prominently displayed over the entrances.
Ebbets Field, where the Dodgers played, we had clock there. In fact, Bulova was the official sponsor of the Brooklyn Dodgers at that time. As Bulova continued to prosper and grow, they expanded in 1953 to the facility in Elmhurst, Queens, which is, I think, where everyone sees still today our Bulova sign on their way to LaGuardia Airport. In 2015, it was time for us to come back to Manhattan. And what better place to come back to than the Empire State Building, the most iconic building in New York City for the most iconic New York brand.
My great-grandfather was the last living person to have worked on the Empire State Building. He literally walked those beams. So when I went up to Bulova headquarters, I was not only enamored, obviously, by what they had collected, but I was shaking because of, right, the kind of weight of where we were. It was just a beautiful moment, right? Looking out the window, seeing this great American city as a guest of this great American brand. Come on, I mean, that's pinnacle, right? That's full circle.
We were making watches here, certainly in the United States, but Joseph Bulova, thinking globally, had a very large facility in Switzerland as early as 1912. I mean, we were truly a global brand and sourcing globally way before many other brands even had ever thought of it.
Switzerland had this cachet for making great movements and precision. So I think he was seeking out something that was very upscale, very relevant, and best in class.
Bulova flourished for most of the 20th century up until the beginning of the 70s when the whole industry was hit with the quartz crisis. In 1979, Lowe's Corporation acquires Bulova. The acquisition from Lowe's really helped it, to survive and continue on, and then later flourish. In 2008, Citizen Watch Holdings of Japan, our current parent company, acquires Bulova from Lowe's Corporation.
Speaking quite honestly, the technology and the engineering in Japan far exceeds any other country in the world. So the combination of having the two, true New York brand, born with the roots here, and the combination of best-in-class engineering with the Japanese movements, no one's got it, only Bulova.
ブロバは150年という長い歴史を有しているブランドです。アメリカの市民に長く愛され親しまれている現状のところをさらに良くしようというそういう強い信念を、今までこの150年間常に持ってさまざまな取り組みをしてきたこと、これは事業だけではなくて、社会貢献こういったところも含めてですね、やはりグローバー自身が、よりよく世の中をしていくという、この女性グローバーの強い信念これを引き継いできたことが、ここまでつながってきたんじゃないかと思います。
Even though Japan is an important part of our company today, every single Bulova watch is still designed in New York City as it's always been.
You have such a compelling and long history of amazing designs, lots of exploration in terms of technology. Being able to be a part of that and to kind of continue that legacy is something that really makes me come to work each day really kind of passionate about what I'm doing. Curve was definitely a difficult beast to tackle. It's the world's first curved chronograph. These are some of the earliest concept sketches that we had. The first thing that you'll notice is the side view here, we were really looking at the curvature of the actual case itself. Our thought was to make sure that it'd be very seamless throughout, so this would ultimately be very comfortable and ergonomic for the wearer. So from those sketches, these are some of the technical drawings for the final design. And this is, of course, where the engineering side of the business comes in.
Once you start to curve a movement, the technical hurdle that you have to overcome, of course, is that various components are no longer the same plane. So you get a much more challenging engineering problem.
カーブについてはその美しいフォルムが最大の特徴になっています。ただし中の部品は直線的なものが多いので、それをカーブの美しいフォルムの中にきれいに収めることに大変苦労しました。
These are distinct looking timepieces because what's beating at their heart is distinct to them. Behind those pieces are actual proprietary in-house developments that Bulova invented.
The Curve is the first curved watch with a curved high precision quartz movement inside. That's a big wow.
ブローバはその昔から非常にチャレンジングな試みをしてきた会社でした。ブローバは非常に先進的な試みをしてきていて、チューニングフォークであったり、あるいは現在カーブ、こういったようなムーブメントをユーザーに提供して、より新しい価値を追求し続けている。それがブローバーが150年続いている秘訣なのではないかなというふうに感じています。
This is a balance wheel. You will find one in every watch in the world. This is a tuning fork. It runs on an electronic circuit and keeps time by vibrations. The Accutron timepiece uses this tuning fork instead of the balance wheel.
At the time that Accutron came out in 1960, it was really the first quantum leap in wristwatch technology, really since the very first watches were developed in the 16th century. An oscillator is the fundamental prerequisite for precision timekeeping. A pendulum is an oscillator used in clocks, but pendulum is a lousy oscillator to try to put into a watch. So for centuries, every single portable timekeeper has had a balance wheel with a balance spring, and the higher the frequency gets, usually the better precision gets. A tuning fork is an oscillator, just like a pendulum, just like a balance. What you had with a tuning fork Accutron was a very, very high frequency oscillator. In a single stroke, you had a watch that was an order of magnitude more precise and more accurate than any watch that had ever existed before.
Accutron, it's so precise. Issued to X-15 pilots by the United States government.
The Accutron Astronaut was a pilot's watch. It was actually worn by astronauts. It was worn by test pilots. It was worn by people at the cutting edge of aviation. And the Accutron Astronaut was chosen for one aircraft in particular that kind of stands out in my memory as representative of just how fast, quite literally how fast, the evolution of aviation technology was moving in the 1950s and 1960s. The A-12 and its immediate descendant, the SR-71 Blackbird.
A global reconnaissance system that will sustain altitudes above 80,000 feet at speeds beyond 2,000 miles per hour is operationally ready.
The astronaut was chosen, the SR-71 pilots, because of its ability to resist very, very high temperatures that would occur at full speed. Re-release of the Accutron astronaut. Even if you're not a pilot, it's another way of saying that you're a sort of cool by association, right? It has a 24-hour bezel designed to allow a pilot to see the time that the watch was set to, but also GMT time, Greenwich Mean Time. That means a 2 time zone watch. It was also a very cool way of saying, I'm playing on team technology, and progress is good, the future is good, and I've got a watch on that proves that, I'm part of the larger project of using science for the betterment of mankind. One of the most charming characteristics, I think, of the Accutron is the F-sharp hum that the tuning fork emits. You have this wonderful... This was the age where being on the cutting edge of technological progress was something that everybody was interested in.
Becoming an Accutron service center was a major milestone in our organization's history. The Accutron at that time was the leader in watchmaking. I mean, it was state of the art. And so to represent that meant that you were also now a leader. The Accutron products that we repaired and then eventually sold were used in industry for time study. They were used in filmmaking. They were used in sport, car racing, rally timing. I mean, everything.
To be able to see that technology and how it worked, that's what really brought me to the Accutron. It works flawlessly and it's just excellent. This one over here is very, very special. These were given out by John F. Kennedy, Eisenhower, and Johnson. These were with the presidential seal, a gift to heads of states. This one is in mint condition. It uses the 214 standard movement, and it just makes an absolutely beautiful clock. And these are the first prototypes, and very few of these have been seen. There were only 30 of them made, and this is number 1. Normal Accutron, the plastic coil that holds electronics is green, but on these, they're blue. And why they changed from blue to green, I don't know why, but they're just really incredible pieces.
Accutron was revolutionary, and we kind of put a little bit on the shelf for a long time, and we had this gem. I opened up this box one day looking through all of the old Accutron watches that we made, and it's spectacular. So it was important for us to use Accutron as the pinnacle above the Bulova brand. For someone that appreciates something a little bit different, but more importantly, having a unique brand new technology that's not available by any other watch company in the world. It actually took us 12 years to design, engineer, and actually bring it to the marketplace, that watch. 12 years. And they failed many times. And to get it right is something that not everybody else would do.
The new Accutron is a really, really interesting animal. It is fundamentally the same as every other quartz watch in terms of basic timekeeping technology. Where it differs is there's no battery. What you have instead are these very, very large, almost weather vane-like electrostatic turbines, which are visible from the front. Basically, the way that they work is by taking advantage of the movement of charged particles to generate electrical energy to power the quartz timing package and to power the movement of the hands.
These movements are very, very difficult to make, so the amount of attention to detail, it's unbelievable.
時計を組み立てるにあたっては全て難しいところなんですけれども、もう一つ一つの工程で気をつけながら神経集中して組み立てなければいけないので、
変なところですけども、帯電発電ローターという部品が帯電 して静電気を、帯びさせるんですけど、それを引き寄せないように検査してなるべく早く組み立てる。組み立てるだけなら3年ぐらいで、一人前になります。
ご担当、貼り付けや銅入れ、ケージ打ち、外観作業といった外装全般を主に担当しています。針をつけれることを一番誇りに持っています。やっぱ苦労して時計作ってるので、つけている方見るとすごく嬉しい気持ちになりますし、モチベーションすごく上がりますね。
There is meaning to wearing a watch. This watch tells the story of a search for a new way to power the telling of time. And I can't look down at it and not see that history or not see the story that it represents. Bulova hasn't been afraid to defy trends in the watch industry, just as they have shown us they are capable of doing with their history of advertising.
It's B-U-L-O-V-A, Bulova Watch Time. America runs on Bulova time.
Artie Bulova, the son of Joseph Bulova, turned this independent watch brand into a globally recognized brand by substantial marketing campaigns that changed the world of advertising.
In 1926, Bulova was the first to advertise nationally on radio.
10 p.m. BULOVA Bulova Watch Time. For supreme accuracy, expert design, and outstanding value, choose a Bulova. Masterpiece of fine watchmaking. WEAF, New York.
By utilizing radio advertisements to share the time, they were directly reinforcing their message of accuracy, of precision. Bulova Watch Time. This is the time.
John Ballard, president of the company, was an innovator in marketing, and one thing he really tried to do was have repetition in advertising. BULOVA, Bulova Watch Time. In 1953, the number of times that it had been broadcast exceeded 5 billion.
BULOVA, America runs on Bulova time.
July 1st, 1941, Bulova ran the first television commercial ever.
Not just watch brands, we're talking any brand.
It aired during a Brooklyn Dodgers game opposite the Philadelphia Phillies, and it opened the floodgates to television advertising.
There was a new record set today, and the winner, Johnny Weissmuller for the 100 meters.
We are so familiar with celebrity endorsements today. Bulova had these remarkable relationships in the 20s, 30s. Johnny Weissmuller, who was an Olympian and the actor who portrayed Tarzan, was a Bulova brand ambassador.
This is one of one. This is the only fully complete Johnny Weissmuller waterproof. This has the original crown, the original bracelet, the original crystal, everything. It actually has a rubber stopper that the crown goes through to kind of waterproof the whole thing. And it worked, and it still works.
Bulova continued with celebrity endorsements in the 1950s. Then, in the 1980s, doubling down on celebrity attraction, Bulova released this campaign, One Great Face Deserves Another, which was an accumulation of some of the hottest, most talented individuals of that time. Roger Daltrey, even Muhammad Ali is a concluding voice.
My face is so pretty, I deserve it too. Bulova.
Bulova has just, it's got an attitude, it's a little loud, it's a little proud, but it does it in such an elegant way. And that feeling that it gives you, I strongly believe is sort of the essence of Joseph Bulova and who he was. And it doesn't matter who you are, where you live, what walk of life you come from, everyone has that moment inside of themselves, that sense of accomplishment, that sense of feeling larger than life, or feeling a little bit bolder, a little bit braver. And the watch gives that to you. It meets you in that moment. And that's the magic, I think, of Bulova. We enter into relationships that have substance. They're genuine, they're organic. I think one of the greatest recent examples of that is our relationship with Mark Anthony.
We were conversing with Mark for over 6 years before we actually came to an agreement. That's because Mark was equally invested in making sure that this was the right relationship for him and his fans as well. Fast forward several years now, he's emotionally attached to the brand. I mean, Mark is wearing a Bulova watch every day. The connection that we have with some of these artists is such an integral part of the Bulova story. And that's really the power of music. And you layer that on top of our history that we have over the decades. It's almost endless, the connection that Bulova has had with sound and music.
I climbed the Eiffel Tower, walked in a London shower, but I get lost.
Watches were functional for Frank. He depended on time. His expression was, if you're not early, you're late. So he wore a watch, and he relied on a watch.
And now Bulova presents the Frank Sinatra Show.
He liked Bulova watches. They were always a kindred company to him.
How do you do? Well, look who's here.
What makes Dad and Bulova work together and why they are connected is because it was consistent in good taste. He picked beautiful shoes and beautiful cars and beautiful simplified watches. And if something felt good, he would stay with it. And he did stay with Bulova, that's for sure. Our products that are branded by Frank have to be authentic to him and his taste. If it's not an organic connection to Frank, we're doing it wrong. I think there's a simplicity to what Bulova does, at least in so far as I have witnessed with the Rat Pack. It's elegant and it reminds me of Black Tie and when they're in the spotlights and being silly and funny together. As traditional as Bulova is to watches, I think that they have come up in time to this century. It's very simple to say congratulations to Bulova for 150 years of magnificent work, consistent and stylish work. It's very exciting. Very exciting.
Bulova had many firsts, one of which was the clock radio.
B-U-L-O-V-A, Bulova Watch Time.
Bulova invented the clock radio back in 1928. Back then, clock radios were very, very large, about 5 feet tall, where the clock would be on the top and the radio would be on the bottom. 1950s, Bulova made clock radios, transistor radios in all kinds of different colors, phonographs, lots of different items.
Then you go to the Beatles' first world tour in the United States, and there's a Bulova clock.
Music is about emotions, and I think that a brand that understands how to connect emotionally with their consumer is key. That's why the partnership between Bulova and Latin Grammy has been a successful relationship between Bulova and the Latin community. As the Latin Academy, our job is to support the trendsetters and recognize when they achieve that level of excellence. Bulova has been a phenomenal partnership in supporting our mission and has always been there to give our artists more recognition for their success. Our best new artists, when they open their watch and they get so happy about it, is because Bulova gets it. They have created that bond, that common objective of celebrating excellence in music. Bulova and the Latin Grammy es una combinación perfecta.
Our relationship, and I call it a relationship because you guys feel like my friends, you feel like my family. Whenever you're doing something together, it feels just organic and spiritual and real. And especially going back to a time in my life where having a watch called Bulova made me feel like it was representative of the lifestyle of me and the people around me. You know, you guys are a part of that story.
I've had an incredible career, my old band Chic, we do a song called Dance Dance, Yowza, Yowza, Yowza. Platinum right out the gate. I then write We Are Family for Sister Sledge. Then do so many records you cannot believe it. David Bowie, Paul Simon, Duran Duran, Bob Dylan. I mean, it's ridiculous. When I was a kid, the first watch that I really remember was getting a Bulova watch. It made me feel very adult-like. It was important. It was like a sort of rite of passage. You feel a certain sense of brand loyalty, especially when you do something so early. Now we have a very sort of family kind of relationship. We are, that was totally accidental. We are family. I mean, we're friends. Bulova has been such great supporters of We Are Family Foundation right from the moment we met. The We Are Family Foundation's current mission is to fund and help as many young people of color or women who are changing the world.
When we first chatted with Nile Rodgers about collaborating, we of course always have to chat about a watch. It's very much inspired by his famous guitar, the Hitmaker, in which he's made an endless amount of hits over the years. And we were happy to be able to give a percentage of every watch that we sell back to the We Are Family Foundation.
It's really cool to have a connection with a watch that you can trace back to big moments. My connection with Bulova, it's the kind of thing that I believe in, and I will be here forever.
I think the secret to Bulova's staying power is high quality products that are affordable, but also cutting edge, well designed, and cool. And that aesthetic is as important today as it ever was. The more I think about Bulova's role in aviation and space travel, the more I'm just kind of blown away by it. It's accessible, but it's also mythic.
May 1927, Lindbergh in the Spirit of St. Louis.
Timekeeping, and in particular watches, are critical for pilots in the air who are making second-by-second life or death decisions. Bulova offered a $1,000 award for the first pilot to fly from New York to Paris. Charles Lindbergh won that prize. Bulova created a watch to commemorate that achievement, the Bulova Lone Eagle. Lindbergh himself sent him a very nice note praising the watch for his aviation experiences.
Amelia Earhart Putnam, the first woman to fly the Atlantic.
Amelia Earhart wore a Bulova, endorsed Bulova, and so Bulova responded by releasing the Lady Lindy, a woman's watch, to honor her achievements.
Richard Byrd, who's the explorer noted for his flights over the North and South Pole, he used Bulova watches. Bulova was incredibly important to commercial air transportation. They were on American Airlines and Pan Am. As important as Bulova's role was in aviation, it was more important even to space travel.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. And we have a liftoff. We have a liftoff at 24 minutes after the hour. Roger, let's go from here. The crew reports they're in fine shape, and everything looks green here in the control center.
When you conduct something like a launch, that's a sequence of events that have to occur with very minimal time differences between one event and the other, and some of them have to happen within milliseconds of one another. So the precise time is a critical function.
Booster is go. Changing. Safety thrust looks good.
Here's the first time we rendezvoused and docked with two spacecraft, which was Gemini 6 and Gemini 7. This is me wearing
my Bulova, of course. I would claim that I wore an Accutron watch to more launch countdowns than anyone else on the planet. The Accutron was like a computer before its time. It was an engineering marvel. This new technology, yeah, it helped me through my career. I started with the first manned Gemini mission, assigned as a biomedical system engineer.
Looking real good and real solid. Roger,
In the Apollo program, I moved up as a lead engineer.
All right, here's the way to Apollo. Stand by 13, we're looking at it.
The Apollo 13 mission, our contribution was to help figure out the fixes. And then I got assigned to the shuttle program. In all my years with NASA, the focus was always quality. It can be a procedure that works. It can be a piece of hardware. And so I think the relationship between the space program and this Bulova is quality. They know that what they're doing is important and they're going to do it right. They're going to give it 110%.
The Accutron-based technologies weren't just on the wrist, they were important, critical parts of both the spacecraft operation, but also the science and technology that these missions were doing. The command module from the Gemini missions had Accutron timekeeping devices in the instrument panel. The primary timing device for NASA's biosatellite was an Accutron, and the Accutron timekeeper was a key part of the Apollo Lunar Surface Experiments package.
If you want to get one of these, you might have to travel a long ways. These are up on the Sea of Tranquility on the moon. The hour hand is years, the minute hand is months. This could be set for up to 5 years before it would trigger an output on the contacts. So it would send information back to the United States.
Everyone knows Bulova, but it has all this hidden treasure that they've hid in their history that are just so amazing that no other watch manufacturer can really claim.
The lunar landing, it was like a big deal. It felt very high tech to us. And the watch that the astronaut depended on somehow failed.
The commander of that mission happened to have as his backup watch his own personal watch, which was a Bulova.
The Bulova was the watch that was working. At the time, having a Bulova watch, I felt a sense of pride, but of course it works. My watch worked all the time.
It became the only privately owned watch to be on the moon, because all the others were government owned that the government took back after the missions. But that particular one sold in 2015 for $1.6 million. When Bulova brought this watch back, they did a really amazing job of reviving it. It's very faithful to the original. It's very legible. It's very robust. It's very strong. It's very reliable. It's also modernized.
You get a smooth sweep of the seconds hand because it uses high frequency quartz. The frequency of a standard quartz watch is around 32 kilohertz. But with the Lunar Pilot, the crystal oscillates at over 200 kilohertz. That game very few companies are playing, and it's one that produces noticeable, measurable, and real improvements in precision. I look at this particular watch and I think of the Apollo era. I think of lunar surface missions. I think of what it was like to watch a 36-story tall rocket rise up into the atmosphere and disappear. Watches are emotional objects, you know? I mean, we don't wear them because we need them. We wear them because they connect us to history. They connect us to people, sometimes people who aren't around anymore. They're time machines in a very literal sense. And they kind of connect us to our own sense of ourselves.